that is taking place here in this little T-ball game. That kid hits the ball that way, then runs the wrong way. Now, those kids are fighting over it. And I just want you to watch what happens when the kid throws the ball. Oh!
Now, here's the thing, Greedy. Is it bad form to laugh at it? I mean, they're little kids. You can't be critical of them, but at the same time, it's funny. So what do? That's a tough spot to be in.
It's tough. I mean, look, coaching T-ball is brutal. All you really hope is that no one gets hurt, and now you've even failed that test.
That's correct.
With the ball. Just a total disaster of a day out there.
The one thing that can't possibly happen has happened. I like the kids in a scrum over the ball. Let's just watch the kid get hit one more time. I'm sorry.
That's nice.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let's just move on.
I feel guilty for watching.
I know, me too. On we go. In the NFL, we got Rob Gronkowski. We have learned this week that he is retiring once again. He played 11 seasons with his longtime quarterback Tom Brady, 9 of them in New England, 2 of them in Tampa Bay. And basically everyone that we've had on, including his own agent since the announcement of this retirement, has suggested, he just doesn't feel like going to training camp. Oh, he's definitely coming back. But hold everything, because none of them played with him and considers him to be a pretty close friend. But Rob Ninkovich does. And, Nico, you see it differently. How do you see it?
Yeah, I think that this is more permanent. I don't see Rob coming back. I really don't. I think at this point this is a different feel as opposed to the last time he retired. There was a lot of things going on. He wasn't feeling great. He took a year off. He came back. He won another Super Bowl playing with Tom Brady. And think of it this way. Rob has accomplished more than any other tight end in history, and Rob has done more in his career than anyone else in history. Literally, he's the greatest tight end of all time. So with those 4 Super Bowl rings, with everything that he's accomplished, he doesn't have to continue to play. His body, he's already been through it. He's had the surgeries. He's done everything that you could possibly think of, and the spiking and all the great touchdown catches and all the celebration. On the flip side of that, he's also dealing with things. He's had to have a bunch of surgeries. He's had his back worked on. He's had his knee done. He's had his ankle done. He's had a lot of things off the field that you don't see as a fan. So I really do think that Rob is going to walk away, and I don't see him coming back.
So let's live in a world where that happens. And again, Nico knows him way better than all the rest of us put together. So when he speaks on this, I listen. Let's talk about the impact that has, Chris Canty, on the Buccaneers. They're thinking Super Bowl thoughts. Brady didn't come back to try and, win a playoff game. He came back to try and win a championship. How significant is the impact of the departure of Gronkowski, in your opinion, to their chances?
Well, it's huge because the Tampa Bay Bucs don't have an inline tight end that has any experience. Cameron Brate is more of a you guy. You move him around, you move him off the ball, sometimes line him up in the backfield. They drafted 2 tight ends in the middle rounds, and they signed 2 college free agents at the tight end position. So that's the inexperience that they're walking into training camp in the regular season with right now at that particular position. But why it matters is because how good Tampa is in the red zone. Tampa was second in red zone efficiency last year, and a big part of that was their tight ends. No team targeted tight ends in the end zone more than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year. Rob Gronkowski, 4 of his 6 touchdowns last year were in the red zone. So they need to be able to have that red zone threat. But then beyond that, they also have to have a tight end that can be an instrumental part of the run game. And I think that could be one of the huge areas where they miss Rob Gronkowski.
Graz?
Yeah, they'll miss him in a number of ways. I will say this, in terms of the red zone, Mike Evans is still there, maybe one of the better red zone targets at the wide receiver position in the whole league, right? And I think it's less damaging than it would have been 2 years ago because Brady's had a couple years with these other guys, and he knows how he can use them. But it's another reason to wonder about this Tampa Bay team, and are the losses too much, right? I mean, Byron Leftwich is the offensive coordinator, but it's going to be his show now, right, with Bruce Arians stepping aside and Todd Bowles, the defensive coach, taking over as head coach. So that's a big test for him. He's lost a couple guys. Godwin coming off an injury. They've got some losses on the offensive line, on the defensive side of the ball. So at what point is it too many for them to overcome and maintain those Super Bowl expectations?
Now, the NFC is a weird place, right? I mean, he loses his favorite target, and Rodgers loses his favorite target. And it's going to be interesting. And Nico has more thoughts on this I want to bookmark because as far as the place that Gronkowski occupies in the history of the sport, he really may be the last of a breed. We're going to talk about that as we continue. But, oh, by the way, The NBA draft is tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern. You see the countdown on your screen. And this year's class is headlined by a consensus top 3 players. It's Auburn's Jabari Smith Jr., it's Gonzaga's Chet Holmgren, and it's Duke's Paolo Banchero. Rounding out the top 5 in ESPN's latest mock are Purdue's Jaden Ivey and Iowa's Keegan Murray. I want to bring in my Uncle Seth Greenberg, no relation. We'll play a game that we'll call Reminds Me Of. Let's figure out who it is these players remind us of, Seth. When people say Jabari Smith, who does that remind us of?
It reminds me of Kevin Durant. You're talking about 6'10", 7'1" wingspan, an elite jump shooter, can play in isolations, 40% three-point shooter, can beat you off the bounce. You can even put him in a ball screen, but he's really good in isos, especially off the elbow, and an elite defender, and that's where he is. He's a two-way player that can flat out score the basketball. Impact player.
Let's go to Chet Holmgren next. Who does he remind us of?
Dirk Nowitzki. You're talking about a 7-footer, 7'6" wingspan, but there, right there, the little step-back fade right there, outlawed Nowitzki. You're talking about a guy that can shoot the three, extremely skilled, a little light in the hips. He's got to develop his lower body, but his skill set is undeniable. He can drive it from the elbow, and he's going to impact the game defensively. A lot of Dirk Nowitzki in Chet Holmgren.
And then everyone in New York is talking about Jaden Ivey. Who does he remind us of?
He's got a little John Morant. He's got a little Russell Westbrook in this game. You're talking about an explosive player in transition, an explosive player, and not a good finisher, but a great finisher at the rim. Can play through contact, does a great job of changing speeds, changing direction, explosive off the bounce. Not a great defender, but offensively, he is fit for the NBA. With NBA spacing, his speed, his athleticism, his ability to change speeds and direction, John Morant, Russell Westbrook.
All right, I love it. So let's make it as simple as this. If you had to bet on one player in this class that you think elevates a franchise, which is that player?
It's going to be Jabari Smith, and I think he's going to Orlando. I know what everyone's saying, but I think he's going to go to Orlando. And I think why? Because not only does he do it offensively, he can do it defensively. And the Orlando Magic, they need to change their culture, change their identity. They've developed or drafted players, but not two-way players. They need some toughness, some physicality, and some guys that can play both sides of the floor. Jabari Smith can score it, he can shoot it from the three, and he can be a lockdown defender at multiple positions, switching 1 through 5.
I hope that's clear what you're seeing on your screen, and that's what Seth was referencing when he said, I know what people are saying. Overnight, the odds shifted significantly. Yesterday, Jabari Smith was the favorite to go number 1. Now Paolo Banchero is the favorite to go number 1. We will all find out together tonight. Uncle Seth, thank you as always. The draft is tonight from Barclays in Brooklyn, and barring a trade, the Magic will pick first, then OKC, then Houston.